now where we need to think about writing the program and testing all of these pieces out and seeing what we've got left to write. I'm still taking it from sort of the project aspect, and there's three main parts to the project. The first part was to ask for a user to log in and only registered users could play the game. Then there was the game part itself, so playing the game, and finally there was a save your score and produce a high score table. So all projects, no matter which one you did, had those three components to it. And I'm going to take a look at those three components now and sort of fit them all together in the program. And I'm going to take a look at it through pseudocode. So take a look at what's on the screen. It says, while not logged in, do ask users to log in end while. Now this is the part that really focuses on getting a user to log in and check that their username and their password is fine. Now I'm not going to be programming that until the very end of the series. There's a couple of things I want to show you because it's going to deal with passwords, so we need to think about security. If we're storing passwords, we need to think about encoding so that people can't just look at the text file and read it. So it can be quite a large task to perform, so I'll leave that till the few videos at the end. What I will do is include it in my program, but kind of cheat. So if somebody doesn't log in, I just say they're logged in and then they can play the game so I can test the rest of it. So this is what it's going to do. It's going to run a loop at the very start of the program to say, while you're not logged in, ask the user to log in. So it's just going to keep putting a login screen on the screen all the time until somebody puts in a valid username and a valid password. And once that's happened, then we're going to run our main program. And we'll never come back to this until we run the program again. So looking at the next slide, what's going to happen? So once they've logged in, we're going to do this section. So while they haven't chosen to quit, now if you remember, we had a main menu. I don't know whether I've got it open down here. We had a main menu which gave us a few options. There we go. So we're going to sort of have this on the screen for them, and one of the options was to quit the game altogether. So while they haven't chosen to quit, what we're going to do is make them sort of run the program, so play the game, and keep doing that until they choose quit. Now they might lose in the game, in which case they're asked to play the game again if they want to, or add words to the file, but they're going to keep going around playing the game until they choose quit. And once they choose quit, what we're going to do is just give them a thank you message for playing so that we know that the program is over. So that's what this part of the program is going to be doing, and I'm going to be expanding on this now, in fact. So what does this mean? So for them not to be able to quit, we need to show them the main menu. Let's get this back on the screen side by side. We're going to show this menu. So basically asking them what they want to do. Then we're going to get whatever they chose. So that's our little get selection piece here. So we check what number they type in, and only if they type one of these numbers will they be able to play the game or whatever they're going to do. And that's what we need to do next, is check what they actually chose. So if they chose 1, so 1 was in the menu, they're going to play the game. If they chose 2, then they're going to add a word to a file. If they chose 3, then we're going to show the high scores. Now I'm not going to check for 4 because for a couple of reasons. One, we know that they can only enter in values 1 to 4. We've just checked 1, 2 and 3, so it must be number 4 that they chose. So instead of an else if choice, I'm just going to use an else, and I'm going to assume that that else was the 4 they pressed, and that is where we're going to say quit. That is going to end our loop and then give us the thank the user for playing. So that's the idea behind what we're trying to do with the game. And to be honest, we're kind of ready to start coding and have a look at what's happening. So I'm going to sort of move on down the level. This is very basic pseudocode, good enough to program from. And I'm going to take them in turn. So I'm going to take the top one. While not logged in, ask the user to log in. So the theory in the game is that if we think about the high score table, the high score table is going to need two things. It's going to need the name of the player, and it's going to need the score that they get. And really, the name of the player is the thing that is going to say that they are logged in. So if they have a name, they're logged in. So I've got a little function here called getRegisteredUser, which is going to put the login screen on, say, what's your name, what's your password. It's going to check that those exist in a file. And if they do, it's going to return the name of the player. So if you type in Fred, and Fred is allowed to play the game, name will be Fred. If you type in John, but John isn't in our list of players, it's going to keep asking us. It's going to stay at empty because John isn't there. So we're going to make sure that we keep the empty string and not set name. So only if you're registered will the name actually hold a value. And that's what's going to control our program. But name is important. We're going to be using that through our program as evidence of being logged in. So let's take a look at this. So while not quit do, so we need to set quit to false to begin with, because we're going to change that at some point in our while loop. And that is when they press 4 in the main menu. We're going to say that quit is true. And the minute that quit is true, it's going to stop this line of code. So that's going to equate to false, which means that the loop won't be running in and we will print out thanks for playing. So the rest of the lines, show main menu, well, we've just seen that we've got a function called, or a procedure to be honest, show menu. So we're just making a call to show menu that we put on the screen. The next thing we need to do is get the selection from the user, which again we've already done and we've already tested. There's our get selection, but this is a function so it returns choice and we capture choice. So we run this to find out what they want to do, and then choice is set to a value between 1 and 4. And then we just check. If choice is equal to 1, so that's pretty much the same as this pseudocode over here, we're going to say play the game. And we're going to pass in a parameter called name. So we need them to play the game. We give them the name of the character because inside this function, if they get a high score, we need to know who the name is so that we can save that high score. So we get the name here and we pass it into play game here so that it can be saved. If they chose the option 2, then we're going to use this function add word. And again, we had that function already written. So, or pretty much written. We know how to add a word to a file. So it's going to be using this kind of function down here, but we'll come to that shortly. If they chose 3, then we're going to show the high scores. And we've already got that function here and we've tested it and made sure it works. So we can show the high scores. And then quit is true only when they choose option 4 from the menu. So before I finish this video and get on to the to programming this, I just want to mention that in my pseudocode I've got this getRegisteredUser. We haven't programmed that yet, or we haven't had a look at it. So I've coloured that red because I know I need to write that function. Although we've checked 1 or 2 things out, we haven't exactly written the rules for playing the game. We need to think how we're going to play the game. And the same goes for add word. Although we've got write word, that's fine, we're only writing the word. We haven't asked the user to give us a word, and then store it in the file. So we've still got a little bit of work to do for this procedure. The rest of the work has been done. So everything in black we've managed so far, or we can write that. Everything in red, we need to sit down and we need to work out what we need to do with it. So that is our pseudocode for our main program to play the game. So quickly going back over it, we're not going to let the user play the game until they are logged in. We're going to cheat. So get registered user is just going to give me a name so that they will always be able to play the game. At the end of the video series, we will change that to work properly. So we're always going to be able to play the game. And that's part of testing. And then we've got our main program that we need to write so that we can check it out. Now, these red items, which I said we need to write, we're going to write some dummy functions, such as for play game, in our first video of solving this section. And again, we're going to write a dummy function for this one. And what I mean by a dummy function is it's not complete. It doesn't have a lot of code in it. It just does what we want it to do, but it does not have any programming logic in it. It's not meant to. And the first one I think we'll do, because we're very close to finishing it, is this adding word to dictionary. So my take on this is that we're going to be writing all of these in to our program. We're going to create these three functions. They're going to be dummy functions to begin with, and we're going to pad them out with actual code, and that will be our game. So in the next video, what I'm going to do is start to write this as my main program, which at the moment, our main program at the very bottom was just some test elements, just testing things that work. We weren't thinking about printing a menu. We weren't thinking about saving words. We were just testing things out in our program. So I'm going to move on to anagram 5 and then start replacing this section with what I've just written here. So that will be in the next video.